all so much for joining us for the first session of the 2025 Water and Health Conference. We'll start with a show of hands. How many of you here have been to the Water and Health Conference previously? Great, a lot of veterans. And for how many of you is this your first time at the Water and Health Conference? Okay, and welcome. So welcome back, you all, and a warm welcome. Thank you for joining this morning's side event. For some background, side events at this conference are meant to create a space for collaboration, knowledge sharing, and new ideas so that we can work together to strengthen evidence-based WASH practices. In this session today, we're centering community voices to better understand the impact of water and sanitation challenges in Alabama's Black Belt. My name is Megan Lott. I'm research faculty at the University of North Carolina, and I'll be your moderator this morning. My goal is to encourage participation, both from our researchers and our guests here. We want to spark conversation and support ideas that lead to action outside of this room. I'm joined by doctoral candidate Olivia Harmon, who's done an outstanding job of organizing this event and leading this research under the direction of her mentors, Dr. Joe Brown and Dr. Alexandra Lightfoot. Olivia's been working over the past year very closely with community members from Hale County, Alabama. We're joined by many of them today: Mayor Patrick Braxton, Miss Kalita Williams, Miss Barbara Williams, and we'll hear from Miss Ann Bailey. They've been working together to document their experiences with water and sanitation challenges using a method called photo voice. I'll give you a breakdown of the session. We'll hear introductions from our researchers. Then we'll hear from Mayor Braxton more about the water and sanitation issues in Alabama's Black Belt. Dr. Lightfoot will explain the photo voice method, and the research team will share the results. Afterwards, we'll have a 30-minute Q&A. You're welcome to bring questions to the research team, and we have questions for you all to hear your feedback and to learn from your experiences. Finally, we'll close the session, and Olivia will give us some key takeaways, summaries, and next steps. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to the research team to begin their introductions. Maybe if we want to start from this end or start with Mayor Braxton? We'll start with you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm a PhD student here at UNC.
Hi, I'm Mayor Braxton from Newport, Alabama.
Good morning. My name is Kalita Williams-Zanders, and I'm a resident of Newbern, Alabama.
And I'm Barbara Williams. I reside in Greensboro, which is about 10 miles away, but I am the librarian at the Newbern Public Library.
And good morning, I'm Alexandra Lightfoot, and I'm on faculty in the Department of Health Behavior at the Gilling School of Global Public Health, so I'm delighted to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your introductions. Mayor Braxton, we're wondering if you could spend a few minutes giving a little bit of context about the water and sanitation challenges in Alabama's Black Belt and in Hale County.
Yes, so we have poor soil in Hale County, and that fall back on the water system. The water and thing is very contaminated underground, and then by the soil don't purge the water. When I say purge, water don't seep into soil when it rains a lot. It take days and days water sit out in the yard and don't go down in the ground. So that's how we got to this point of having bad water in the community.
Dr. Lightfoot, we're wondering if you could explain the photo voice method.
Absolutely. First of all, have any of you used photo voice before? Great. What did you do? What was your focus?
Actually, we were in a community in Metro Atlanta, and we actually used it with the youth in that particular community so that they could actually express themselves through the photos to the adults.
Excellent.
To show them what they saw
That's
and what they wanted.
Thank you. So photo voice is this really interesting approach. The work that I do at Gillings as a researcher is using the community-based participatory research approach. So really figuring out how to partner with communities to make sure their voices are heard and their concerns are advanced in the research process. And photo voice is one of the best ways to kind of get that work going because it uses photography. It gives cameras to people in communities to share their concerns using images and a facilitated discussion process. And so one of the ways that it works is also the really important part of it too is that the community members get to decide what the questions are that they're going to ask. It's not the researcher. Even though you all agreed to work on a project working around water and sanitation, Olivia, as the research lead, did not say, okay, this is what we're going to explore. And you'll see in a moment the kinds of questions that they asked. And people come in, bring photos related to the questions that they're asking, the photo assignments that they're doing, and then go through a discussion process that really takes you from what do you see in this photo to kind of what's happening to how does it connect to our lives to why is this happening, and really then gets to the D, what can we do about this? So it's a very action-oriented process with the idea that ultimately after you've gone through this, you're going to bring what the findings are to people who can help bring about change, influential decision makers. So that's Photo Voice.
Okay, so throughout our process, which we're going to talk about soon, I wanted to begin with the conclusions that we got, so they're top of mind. So here are the key insights we took away from our Photo Voice sessions. So the first being, outsiders need to understand that this situation is real and urgent. Believe us. It is essential that we address misconceptions, around infrastructure projects in rural areas. There is a deep-rooted fear of exploitation and a strong mistrust in the system. Open communication from all parties is crucial to building trust, and context is key for effectively scaling up solutions. So try to keep those in mind as we talk about the different photos and share some experiences and quotes from our process. And we'll start with the first question that we came up with. Or they came up with.
So the first question that we came up with, or that we had to explore when we started the project, was how lack of water and wastewater resources causes inconveniences and concerns.
Oh, I forgot that I'm in charge of this.
Okay, so I'm going first because my photo was picked because we all were tasked, those of us in the project were tasked with bringing in a photo at the first meeting. And then after we looked at everyone's photo, we decided to choose a photo that we wanted to focus on for that particular discussion. And the first photo that we discussed was mine, the one that I brought in. In the photo, you'll see behind these trees, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a creek there. And then over here on the right, there's a trailer with a bunch of other little things along this creek, like a dog house and other little, well, trash, I just call it, things along that creek. And the reason why I took this picture was because down the creek from where this occurs, my husband has cattle. And he put cattle on that property because there was a creek there, a natural source of water. And once he put his cattle there, we thought it was perfect spot because, the water was there, the grass was green, everything kind of checked all the boxes. But after he actually put his cattle there, he lost 2 or 3 of them, and we were trying to figure out, what was going on. Why did these cows, the cows just die? It turns out that the water was contaminated. And so he had to go through the process of blocking off the cows' access to the creek and then haul water over to this pasture. And in the process of hauling water, in a round trip, it was 30 miles round trip to get water from where we, our home, our location, over to the location where the cows were. And so we chose this photo because of the extreme inconvenience this caused my husband to try to get water over to his cows. In the summertime, it was 2 or 3 times a week. And in the fall and in the winter, it doesn't evaporate as much. They don't drink as much. But he did this for a year, until we were able to get some things worked out. But it caused an extreme inconvenience just for us to be able, because, for us, since my husband and I are both teachers, we chose to go into the cattle business because that was, that's our retirement plan. That's something that, in the rural area, that's something that was a possibility for us. So we took advantage of that, thinking that on the property that we put them on, that everything would check out, and then it comes to find out that the water was contaminated. And so this is one home along that creek, but up from this home, there's a hill where there are 5 or 6 other homes that run down into this creek as well. And we've learned since then that none of the homes up the hill from this creek have septic tanks. So all of that waste is running down into the creek, and then this creek is running miles, carrying that waste along. And so, like I said, we chose this photo for our first one, and then as we discussed, and we came to realize that there were other people, not just in this particular situation, but other situations within the county where people are inconvenienced so that they can get fresh water, not just to their cattle, but just to their homes.
Yeah, thank you. Our next discussion topic is how population and water affects health. The picture that were chosen for this section are from Ann Bailey, who could not travel here today, and so we have a recording of her explaining the pictures. The recording audio quality might be a little bit difficult, so I'm going to explain it afterwards. So everyone listen carefully.
I did keep outside my door the gallon jugs that I have to get refilled with clean water when I go to Tuscaloosa. Mondays, I have to go anyway, so 60 cents gallon,
That's a
and
good
sometimes it may be 4 or 5 of them, just for one person in a week. And the next one is, if I'm going to, like putting a neti pot to wash out my nose or whatever, or even to drink, make sure that the water is clean. And then that's my well house, and it is no more. And I always felt like it was clean till the sand came, and it wasn't any time until the water didn't.
So these are pictures that Ms. Ann provided about how she drinks water and the different things that she does to counteract, the mistrust and the concern about there potentially being contamination in the water. She used to be on well water, if you could hear from the recording, and then it dried up. And so she had to spend a significant amount of money to get connected to the county water system. And even then, the service is pretty unreliable, and there is a kind of deep mistrust in that system. And so she's hauling water from Tuscaloosa, which is about 40 minutes away from this town, right? Like 45. And then if she runs out of the water that she's hauled, she'll boil it before using it for cooking and drinking in her neti pot. Yeah. This is Ms. Barbara's time to shine.
What are supports and are barriers to getting access to water and sanitation services in Hale County, Alabama?
And can you speak?
Oh, I'm
Into the
sorry.
mic,
Yeah.
sorry.
Well, here's one right here. Okay. This is housing development. Well, this is a picture of a pump. These are on the countywide sewage. Well, not countywide. The sewage system that is in place in parts of the county. A lot of the areas are a good distance away from the lagoon. The only lagoon in the county is in the county seat of Greensboro, which is from New Bern, it's about 10 miles. But then, like I said, Newbern doesn't have the, Newbern is not part of the county system. But this is an area in Hale County that is currently part of the system, and they are about 4 or 5 miles from the lagoon. So the waste had their pumps along the route to pump the waste to the lagoon. But the significance here is that this is a community that was started probably 50 or more years ago, and no one was really paying a whole lot of attention to the requirements for septic systems, whereas they put septic systems in, but no one paid much attention to whether the soil perked. And like Mayor Braxton said, now the health department requires someone to, anytime before you build a house, the health department has to come out and do a test, and they'll determine whether your soil perks, which means that they dig a hole and put the water in there, and it has to go down so many inches in a certain length of time. And if it does, then it perks, and then you probably can get a loan to build a house there. And if it doesn't perk, then most banks are not gonna finance it. But this is now. Back in the day, they didn't care. They just put a system in. And what happened with this housing development was that none of the systems worked because the soil did not perk, just like Mayor was saying. When these people had pipes going out and they had field lines, but when everything got out in the field lines, it just sat there. So they had wet spots in their yards. There were certain areas of the community that just grew up. It was swampy because of the water just sitting there, the wastewater just sitting there. And most people, there was a smell in the community. You had to make sure your kids didn't go to certain areas. I have in-laws that live in this community, and parts of their backyard they could not use. They were only able to use like one side. So this went on for a number of years, and then eventually through a grant, I forget, well, I know it was through the government, but they got a grant, and the sewage line was extended out to this community, and everybody in the community were hooked onto the sewage line. And like I was saying, this community is a good little ways from the lagoon. So these pumps, this is the way they get the waste to the lagoon. And now the community has really, I mean, you see full yards of grass, not swamp. People have taken a more pride in the community, you know, where they've started kind of landscaping their yards because they have dry areas and it's not so smelly. The mosquitoes are not carrying them off. So this is so this is an example of it was initially a barrier, but they have overcome it by being able to put a system in. Well, yeah, like I said, this system was, they started building these houses over there where I'm aging myself now, but they started building these houses like when I was in maybe junior high school, and I'm a class of 73 for high school. So I mean, and so it was probably 30 or 40 years that the people live with this. And there are areas, so I think the kids used to call it the jungle because it literally was, but it was gross because in the Black Belt, you know, it's called the Black Belt for a number of reasons, but the main reason is because of that thick clay, black soil. And I mean, like, it holds water like, it's like a,
Yeah.
and so when the kids would go off in these grown-up areas, it was wet, black mud, smelly, bugs, leech. I mean, it was awful. And to think that someone had to live in community, in a community that had this, yeah. So they lived there, but like I said, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, they did get I think it was a community block grant, but they did get money. But this is just one subdivision, and there are in Hale County where our health department is not as vigilant as they need to be to enforce the different laws, because I always thought that there was a law that said that you could not, somebody told me that, I don't know where I heard that, but I thought it was a law that says that you could not get on the county water system, because we have a pretty extensive county water system, but I heard that you could not get on the county water system unless you had a working septic tank, a working sewage system. But when you think about the average, if the soil perks, you still out of close to $2,000 or maybe more to put in the traditional system. If the soil does not perk, then you have to put in the alternative system, which is a mound. They actually bring dirt in and create a mound and then run the pipes into that mound. And to do a mound is
22,000.
yeah. So when you're talking about Hale County is a very impoverished area in the Black Belt, with the medium income is well below this. Yeah, most individuals are below the poverty level. They are just surviving. They don't have even the $2,000 to put in a traditional system, and if their soil doesn't perk, then I mean it's just out of the question. So what a lot of them do is they dig a hole, and just
in it.
whatever, and they just straight line it. And this, 'cause now at this location, I grew up like across the street, and we had a well at that time, but in later years, our water started smelling. It started having little white particles in it. And when the health department, we had the health department to check it. We didn't just keep drinking it. And when the health department checked it, they told us immediately we needed to stop consuming that water. We couldn't cook with it. We couldn't bathe in it, because that water actually had fecal matter. And this is across the street. So the situation in this housing development went on so long until it actually contaminated the groundwater. People with wells around there were not able to use their well. Fortunately, by then the county water system had been put in, so we could switch to the county water system. But then this is another bill, because when you had your well, even though we had electric pumps in the well, that was all part of your electricity bill. But then when you had to switch to come off of your well and switch to county water, then now you have a water bill. So it costs, it's still costing you more. So that's this is one of my passions. So I'll stop now, but you get the picture. Okay, thank you.
But adding to that, by someone had the well, and the soil was so poor that the water in the well got contaminated, and that's what put them on county water, and some of them had to fight to pay that water bill and to get hooked up, because right now it's about $1,400 for a household to get hooked up, and some of them, they don't have that money unless they ask friends and family to help them.
Yeah, it's really expensive to, not only do you get a bill, but then you gotta come up with the money to, and if they have to, depending on how much work they have to do, sometimes it could run as high as $3,000 because they got to come out and run, the county has to come out and run their line and put a meter in, and then from the meter to your house, you are responsible for that. And so, I mean, the sky's the limit as to how much it might depend on how far you live from the county property line where the county puts the meter. Cause like I think Ann told us it ran her about $3,000 altogether to get hooked up to county water when her well went dry. And see, that's an awful lot for, for yeah, that's an awful lot. And we do it, and there are some that just can't afford it. They actually have to get jars and buckets and they start carrying water.
Thank you. So as part of our, after we had all of our sessions that we just gave you a preview of, we then decided or looked at some major themes that kept coming up. And we organized those themes into a story map that I'm gonna explain real quick that you see on the screen. So it kind of starts, it starts off at the base where I think a lot of our discussion started with inequalities and prejudices, which then led to basic needs not being met, which we heard and from that we kind of talked about connectedness and health. And then from those basic needs not being met, we talked about inconveniences to you and others in your community, and how you had to come with you had to use adaptability and creative solutions. And then it kind of goes off into two different directions. There's a more negative response to these basic needs not being met and inconveniences, and then a more positive response. So we'll start with the negative so we can end on a happy note. So from the inconveniences, there's a lot of, again, mistrust in the system, a feeling of powerlessness, and then thoughtlessness and disregard. I think Kalita said earlier, like, a lot, it's not thoughtlessness in a malicious way. People are just surviving, I think is the words that you used earlier. And so, but that did come up. And then lack of information in a plethora of different ways. And then on the more positive sides of things, kind of like what Ms. Barbara was saying, there is a lot of support within the community. Since there aren't these resources, since these basic needs are not being met, there's a lot of support working together, a great sense of community, and then other resources that they're able to turn to. And so next what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the themes a little bit more in detail, and I might read some quotes if we have time. For the themes that we already hit on, because I do want to have lots of time for discussion, I might fast forward if that's okay with everybody. Okay, wonderful. So with inequalities and prejudice, it's kind of the sub-themes that we talked about. We talked a lot about socioeconomic inequalities, racism, ageism, sexism, and geographical discrimination. And so some of the quotes that I wanted to share today was, but there is an underbelly of variables that permeate in the community that sometimes trickle up when it comes to, sanitation, water, and things like that. Because even if we were to break it down to who has access to certain things, it could be across not only racial, but socioeconomic lines as well. And then the next quote, which really speaks to that geographical discrimination, because this is Hale County and the entire Black Belt is pretty rural. If you want to live in a rural place, there's a lot of extra responsibility that you end up taking on. I think we talked, we hit on basic needs not being met, but we have, also I forgot to mention, there's some bonus pictures that were submitted that we get to look at during this part. But we talked a lot about not only water and wastewater service, which we already heard about, but housing, food, education, internet came up a lot, road systems, and then waste management, which is why I included the picture of the trash system here. And also, I'm so sorry, I forgot to say, if anyone on the panel wants to jump in at any time, please do so. I forgot about that. Yeah, please.
So this was another picture that I brought in. During COVID, we had a major situation go on in terms of getting our trash picked up. The county only had one garbage truck to service the entire county. And so we went weeks at a time where our trash wasn't picked up and it was just at the road. There was one point where, since we are in a rural area, there was one point where my husband just got our trash from the road and we just burned it, because it sat there for so long. And so not only do we have the issue with water and making sure that everybody has access to clean water, there was a time as well where we had to, figure out how were we going to get rid of the trash that we had, especially during the COVID pandemic. Now we have a consistent, trash pickup. However, it's $30 a month. When at one point it was what, 20?
20.
It was 20, so it's steadily going up. And so you still have, if people are having issues paying for the county water, they also have issues with paying for trash pickup, and county water can go upwards to what?
Oh, I mean, it's just one in my household, and my county water runs me from $35 to $45 a month.
On top of the $30,
And then I have to, and on top of paying my,
because it's not wrapped
garbage
up
pickup
into
too.
one bill, yeah.
and see that's, it's not mandatory that you sign on to, well, either one of those, but it's not mandatory to sign on to the garbage, so we have a lot of areas where people just dump.
They dump it
Yeah,
along.
if you have properties and there's a little road going back up in the woods, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna go up in there and you're gonna find trash and,
Landfill.
yeah,
landfill,
yeah,
yeah.
somebody will
Makeshift.
have made your property a
Makeshift
landfill.
yeah.
And that happens a lot, and a lot of people that do own land, especially that has access, that people have access to, they have to be real particular about trying to keep the trash out of there.
And that kind of, goes into the water issue, because where I live in New Bern, I do live on a well, and so I'm not hooked up to the county water, but there are, areas around me where there aren't septic tanks and things like that. So I'm always concerned about my water getting contaminated, because then if it gets contaminated and I can't use it, now I have to hook up to the county water and do all of that. So it's a trickle effect. If one person doesn't do or aren't able to, because like we talked about in one of our discussions, it's not like they do this on purpose. Like I'm not purposefully trying to mess up everybody's water around me. This is what I have to do because I can't do the alternative that's there. So,
Like she was saying about the well, I do carbon work and plumbing and build the house. And I got called out to a guy, cow pastor, to work on his well. His well went down. And after getting out there checking it and getting the well back going, just me being out there didn't even have to call the health department. When I turned the water on, I know he had a problem because the water had a bad smell coming out the ground. And that. So I got in touch with him and told him he had to move the cow or find another way of getting water to the cow. And one of those houses 2 or 3 miles around, it got in the stream up under the table, and that's how it started coming back up.
And I was thinking one of those, are you gonna show that picture, Olivia, where we're talking about the, how it's hard, he made me think about how it's hard to get anyone to come service anything.
It's the next picture.
Oh, okay. Now this is, nobody from Alpha, my insurance company, is here, but this is a hole. But this is a hole that's in my yard side of my house. And actually what happened, really is back during the pandemic, I had to have my septic tank, because the septic tanks, well, I won't go into the details of how they work, but every once in a while you have to have them pumped out. And so my septic tank is, of course, is underground, and the only way you could get into it, they leave a little top leave a little opening on the top of it, but unfortunately, the people that put my system in, they didn't put the right kind of top on it, because you should be able to get into the system, get into the tank to pump it without having to dig down to it, whereas mine had to be dug down to. And we left it, the people that came to pump it, left it open because they were supposed to come back and put a different kind of top on it, a top that would allow them to, get in it from the ground, from the top of the soil, not having to dig down to it. And needless to say, this was during the early part of the pandemic, and I haven't seen them yet.
It's almost 5 years ago.
Yeah. And I've called them, and they promised, and that you run into that a lot. I mean, in Hale County, because we are rural areas. Not, I think the population of the whole county is like 15,000, and we have to depend on. We don't have a lot of local craftsmen that could do some of the work, so we have to depend on people coming out of Tuscaloosa, which is 35 to 40 miles, depending on where you are in the county. Demopolis, which is also basically 25, 30. And so even if you have a problem, I mean, it's like, well, you got to just live with it. Alabama Power and Black Warrior, which are the two providers of electricity, they have gotten, so now they charge you $125 just come and look. And then you gotta pay if you need a new part or whatever. So that's another great inconvenience and great obstacle to a lot of things that you want to get done, dealing with anything, water, electricity, anything. We have to just put up with a whole lot. And it also causes us to kind of do a lot of extra things at home. For instance, since I'm on a septic system, that means that I have to be particular about what kind of toilet tissue I use. I have to be particular about what kind of washing powder I use. All of those things you have to consider, and sometimes it's not it might be the most expensive, because I don't know how prices run up here, but I have to use Tide. I can use Gain, but I can't use the ones that have too many suds, because they go, and with toilet tissue, I can't use the fluffiest, the most absorbent, because it has to,
Clog it up.
yeah, it will clog up stuff. So I mean, so that's something else that you have to keep in mind. I can't just go in the store and say, okay, oh, that smells good, I'm gonna try it. Now I gotta think about, is this gonna break down? Is this gonna make my bacteria go haywire and make my system back up? So that's another thing that and a lot of families, I mean, they want to go when they you can't buy soap on Snap.
Right.
So
Figure out how you gonna pay.
so I don't think you can buy toilet tissue.
No,
I
ma'am.
don't think so either, but so I mean, it's just a lot of things that come into play when you're trying to live a civilized, well, I guess civilized might be a little bit too strong, but you're trying to live
Normal life.
yeah,
Like going
normal
back
life.
to just,
Yeah.
just meeting your basic needs, like she said in our, in the map, just making sure that you get those basic needs met. Because Miss Bailey is an elderly lady, and for her to have to drive to Tuscaloosa to get water, round trip,
It's
you know,
80 miles.
that's 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 hours round trip just to get clear water for her to drink, because she doesn't feel comfortable with the system that's in place for her now. And she felt comfortable with her well, And I'm similar to, because well water is wonderful, but if you get to a point where your well dries up or it gets contaminated and you got to go through all this expense to get what you need, I think when we had our discussion, it's kind of like you're being, I hate to say it this way, but punished because you chose to live in a, rural area and be comfortable in that aspect. But then on the flip side, you got to think about all of these other things just to make sure that you can function every day.
And like she said, with the soil being so poor and don't purge the water, some people, the elder people, have a leak come from the meter to the house, and when they realize they got a problem with water leaking out the pipes coming in the house, they got a bill $600-700
Yeah.
that for that month, and by the ground be wet all the time. They don't even know, where it's coming from till someone come there and just point it out to them that you got a leak in your water system coming in your house.
And then when they tell you it's on your side,
It's on
It's
you.
on your
it's on
side.
you.
Because I definitely had that issue. I had my water bill it got up to $174. And I will give the Hale County utilities credit. They spread it out for you. So, and if you having that issue, they won't turn your water off as long as you're working with them. But once the leak was identified, because this was I think it was that last oh yeah, that's 2 times. Cause one of those checks that the government sent us during COVID, I couldn't use mine. I had to put mine in the ground because I had a water leak, and I had to pay somebody to come out there and dig down to the line, replace the line, and we'll cover it back up and all of that. And of course, he told me that when he dug down to where the leak was, that I needed to replace the whole line from my house all the way out to my meter, which for me is about 100 feet, 200? Because I don't live
Direct on the road.
direct on the road. I'm up. So yeah, it ran me, that particular leak ran me better than $600.
Then adding to the soil gets so dry in the summertime,
Yeah.
it cracks up and it pulls your pipes
Yeah.
apart. If you don't have good pipes in the ground, it would pull them apart.
yeah.
That's all I do.
So sometimes that's a cause of a leak. And like we said, I don't care where, it's some way or another, the water department always finds a way to say it's on your side. I mean, like I had a leak at the meter, and my neighbor called me from across the street. He said, well, you need to call the water department. I said, yeah, what's going on? He said, you got water. I mean, I just hadn't looked out that day, but I had a shower going down there. And it's in the meter, but yet it was on my side. So I had to pay for it.
I think we have a few minutes.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna quickly, I'm gonna go through, and if y'all have something to say, stop me, okay? Because y'all have, but okay, so next, again, mistrust. We talked a lot here about mistrust in the food system, law, government, water quality, and neighbors. Anything to add here before we move on?
Well, this is where
Oh, yeah.
They routinely send us a report every year
I have a
on the
Copy.
supposedly
of the Hale County Water Quality Report.
yeah.
It's so small. Can anyone read this? No, not me.
And to be honest, when it comes in the mail, most of us just,
What is this?
as it's so technical, and I have somewhat of a scientific background, but I don't bother. And a lot of people, when they just don't bother because we don't really trust it. They just, I think the law requires this, so they just doing something so they can check that box off and say, well, we did it, and nobody really reads it, so
Yeah.
that's it.
Oh, wait, there's a question, I think.
Is this sort of like a water quality assessment?
Yes.
And they're asking you to do the water quality assessment?
No, they do it. I'm not really sure where they get the samples from, but they actually do the test. Either, I guess, maybe bring somebody in. I don't really know the procedure, but they do issue a yearly report, supposedly of the results.
Yeah. And it's for the whole county, and it's at the point of where they treat the water, so not at the household level. Yeah.
So what kinds of questions that it throws? I'm dumb about this, I just don't know who can ask the check boxes.
Okay, the system, the utility, has to check the box. They're required by law to send out a report, but it's not interpretable by people.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. With the feeling of powerlessness, we talked about no good options, which I think we touched on earlier in our discussion. Neglect, having to spend money that you don't want to or can't or shouldn't really have to. I think what you were alluding to with Anne, and she's spent all of this money to get connected to the system and is still going and buying and hauling water back. And then again, with the water quality, feeling of powerlessness about what could I do to change this?
Right.
Yeah.
So if you think about what my mom shared with the subdivision and how long they lived in those conditions, because I remember as a child going to the in-laws, my aunt and uncle's house, and there was this wooded area over to the side of their house. It was always damp, always wet. We never went over there on that side of the yard. There was always an odor in the neighborhood, and this was me as a kid, and and this system came in, and I'm 43, and this system came in, in my 30s.
Well, before
So
but
go ahead.
I would say it started when I was, so it was well before she was even thought of.
Right.
So
And just that feeling of powerlessness, it's there, it's going on, and it's not safe, but what can I do to solve it other than, going to report and complain? But even when you complain about certain things or say certain things, how far does it really go? Who's actually listening to what we're saying? And that kind of goes back to one of the essential questions that we had earlier at the very top. We want people to understand that, yes, this is a rural area. There aren't a lot of people here, but we are here. And we have an issue and we have a problem. And we, for all intents and purposes, sometimes we're going to need some help from the outside to help us solve this problem. But if you have individuals who don't even believe it's going on, it's not much can be done, if that makes sense. So I welcomed being able to participate with Olivia in this, because it kind of, you knew these things were going on, but it even opened your eyes even wider to it, as to what's going on, how people feel, and then giving you some more, it kind of gives you a little bit of power, to be able to share this information with others from other regions, from other areas who either have similar situations or don't have the same situation, but now you see, it's real, it's happening, it's going on.
Okay, I'm gonna fast forward just a little bit so we have time to discuss. So I'll hit on the themes, and then if y'all have stuff to say real quick, then we can, but then we'll go to the key points. So again, thoughtlessness and disregard was one of the themes. Lack of information. I do want to stop here real quick and say that this was not only lack of information from the community, but kind of like what Cleta just said about outsiders to the community itself, a lack of information about what is going on. We talked about that a lot. Next, supports. So on the more positive side, how there's that sense of community and hope and dignity. Does anyone want to say anything about Sunshine School now that we're here? Or do we want to move?
I mean, in fact,
Like how, yeah,
How close?
like how, or how great, like how, not that,
okay,
but
well,
like how nice it was.
Sunshine,
Yeah.
Ms. Patrick. Well, Sunshine School was it was a K through 12 school that was located in the community, and for various reasons, well, primarily because the population declined, and also we have a impoverished school system. They operate entirely on federal money because they get very little financial support from the county. We're in one of those situations. Well, we're in the South. We don't need to elaborate. But our public school systems don't get this support financially or that they actually need. And what the gist of it is, they end up closing the community school, which was the kind of the hub of the community. I mean, you know, they gave them a sense of pride having their own school. They had a football team that was winning. They even won a couple of basketball state championships, and even with it was community pride. But then it was things like education. I mean, you could. They would bring little programs into the schools, and you could go over there. The extension would be there with 4-H. You know, it was well, just a community hub. And once the school closed, then that took that away from that took that pride that they just lost something. Now I will say that I'm proud to say that the New Bern Library, which is a project of Auburn University's Rural Studio. Rural Studio is an outdoor, it's an off-campus class that operates through the School of Architecture from Auburn University, and they actually have 2 classes of students each semester that comes over to New Bern, and they design and build projects and everything. So the library is a project, and we have tried to take up this slack as far as offering copy machines, offering fax. We are one of only 2 places in New Bern that has fiber optic internet, and that's provided by the state. And we we do grants and everything, plan programming for the whole family, after school programs, and also we've tried to kind of switch that community pride, take advantage of it, but just switch it to the library and still be able to offer programs that improves the quality of life and serves as enrichment for the community, and also let our kids know that, they're not forgotten.
And when they was talking about closing school, they taught the teachers taught all that in school at Sunshine School. All the kids know about everything in the community because they were teaching about the community while they were teaching other stuff in the school. So the kids learn about where they lived and what they expect in the neighborhood. So after they closed the school, then that came be a lack of trust in the community because they told them they weren't going to close the school. They kept telling them they weren't going to close the school, and the kids were passing school, and they closed it anyway just for politics.
Yeah, and that was a great blow to New Bern because that school I actually worked at the school, and that school it was a wonderful community at that school.
And then with resources, so I think the difference between supports and resources are supports were more like feelings, so like hope and community, and resources were more tangible things. So we talked about like neighbors who would help with different utility issues, the utilities that were in place, and then different infrastructure projects and grants like Ms. Barbara was talking about with that pump station. Does anyone have anything, or, okay. So here are key insights again. I will reiterate them one more time before we open it for questions, and then we have some questions for y'all. But again, the first being, outsiders need to understand that this situation is real and urgent, believe us. In our discussions, I forget who said, I think it was you, Mayor Braxton, but you used the phrase, "this is not a fairy tale," and I really like that. I think it really speaks to the, urge to be believed. Next is, it's essential we address misconceptions around infrastructure projects in rural areas. I think we talked a lot about how there is this misconception that people don't want change, or they don't want new things or better. And I think through our conversations, I learned and that we discussed that this actually stems from our next point, which is that there's a deep-rooted fear of exploitation and a strong mistrust in the system. It's not that they don't want better or change. It's that they're mistrustful for very fair reasons of outsiders, and that outsiders, like myself, are not owed trust, and that trust is earned. The second is, or the fourth is, open communication from all parties is crucial to building trust. So not only from, depending on what the project is, so not only from the community, but with engineers and utilities, and if it's a research project, academics and researchers, and all of the things at every single level. I think that came up a lot. And then finally, context is key for effectively scaling up solutions. I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that these problems with water and wastewater are not unique to New Bern. They're not unique to Hale County. They're not unique to the Alabama Black Belt. But New Bern is its own unique community with history and politics and culture, and it's important to acknowledge that when you're trying to scale up or introduce new technology. Yeah, does anyone have anything else to add before we open it for questions?
I guess the one thing
Go ahead.
is that, going back to the putting things into context and understanding that mistrust. We are in the Deep South. Hale County is in the Deep South, in Alabama, and there have been a lot of situations where the people in the community in that area have been let down and disappointed by promises that were given to them that never came to fruition. And so as a result, when it is time to sit at the table to come up with a solution to help with some of the issues that are there, whether it be, sanitation, waste, water, cleanliness, and all of that, it's important to understand that, yes, the individuals there are in a rural area. Yes, there are some limitations, but they aren't ignorant either. And so let them be at the table as well when you're coming up with these solutions, so that they can be more invested in it. You can get the buy-in, because if you get those individuals in the community to buy into what you're trying to do, then they'll be more inclined to let you do some of those solutions that you have, if that makes sense. Because sometimes there's always this misconception that, oh, they're in the country, they don't know. Yes, we do. we know, and we know what issues we have, but there's a limitation in terms of funding, and there's a limitation in terms of bringing those resources in, because they're not naturally already there, if that makes sense. So just letting those community people be at the table so that their voices can be heard. Because if you let them speak, then they'll be more inclined to listen to what you have to say. I hope that made sense.
Yes, and like she was saying about resourcing, lack of funding, and now the town is able to put together a sewer system for everyone inside the community, and they feel so much better that they're gonna have something to help clean the community up and things. They engage in meetings. Every time we have a meeting, everybody want to be a part of it and things, because they know if they pull together, they can come out of this and things and have better. And the only thing I can say, the people would benefit off the poor soil if the farmer, because they can build more catfish ponds and things, because they get money because the soil don't purge and things, it hold their water, so they gonna benefit off of that. You know, like a good soil in the community, and then it's only a limit on so much they can plant. You know, you have to plant cotton, corn, or soybean. Ain't nothing else you can do with that soil in the Black Belt.
Well, thank you all so much for sharing your stories today. A round of applause for our researchers. And at this time, we've got 25 minutes, and I'd like to open the floor for questions. Caroline is going to bring around the mic. Does anyone here have a question for our researchers?
Thank you. Thank you so much for this great presentation. So I have a few questions, but I'll just start with just the one. And does your community have any connections with a TA provider currently? Are you working with anyone in the region? Like a technical assistance provider, so someone who would be able to help you and your community with applying for funds for infrastructure or communication assistance? Is anyone in the region working with you?
Yes, up in Tuscaloosa, we just started working with West Alabama on the sewage project and getting grants for that get the sewage in. And the guy I met with in Montgomery, I met with him 6 months before he came to New Bern, and we talk about things we need to do in New Bern. So after he got there, he said, "You've been telling me about it. Show me, take me and show me." That's what I was glad he said, because I was willing to take him to each and every one of them houses don't have sewage and show him how they was living. And after that day, we got through and had lunch, and he promised me $1 million to bring in for the help with the town. And he said, "Come back to me in 2 months and we're gonna talk about it." So in that 2 months time, I went back to him and we had another meeting. He said, I realized you really need help. I'm gonna give you $4 million for to help this town.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
One of the things I'm always curious about is sometimes there's a narrow scope of things that as researchers or collaborators, we're sort of qualified to be useful around. And when we show up, what's needed is a lot bigger than that scope.
Yes.
And so what you'll get is, hey, that's cool, but how about this, this, and this? And what can you share about the best way to be open-minded about things that you hadn't planned on focusing on, while not overpromising or exceeding the scope of what you're actually qualified to do a good job of? Because, in terms of keeping trust, you say no to every idea, well, you're going to lose trust there. But then you overpromise and it doesn't work out, well, you're going to lose trust there. And so I guess I'm curious what guidance you can give on that point.
Myself, when I go out and talk to each and every homeowner, I make sure I get it clear. I'm not promising you no more than you already have. I'm going to try to help you, but I'm not going to promise you no more than you already have.
I think, I don't know. I was curious to hear what y'all would say, like as a researcher going in and having a set of skills.
Well,
yeah.
for me, when Olivia came into town, to get her participants, to join into her photo voice and everything, the way that she did it was that she made a connection with the Rural Studio that's already established there. And so with her already being established with the Rural Studio, for me personally, that gave me comfort in knowing that if I joined in with her study, then I know it would be something that's legitimate, that is real, and that we would be taken care of in terms, we would be doing an ethical, research study, and that what we would be sharing and that things that we would be doing would be not necessarily kept confidential, but be protected, I guess, and that my opinion would be protected and I would be exploited in everything that we shared because she had that connection with the Rural Studio. So I would say if there's already something in a community or wherever you're trying to do your research that's already established, if you can make a connection to them and then, spread off from that. Because I said, the Rural Studio has been in New Bern a very long time. And then it's connected to Auburn University. So when you connect out, even though I'm an Alabama fan, it's okay. But I still, with her being with Rural Studio, Auburn University, and then with her having a connection to UNC, all of that for me lined up, and I said, okay, yeah, it's fine. And then she was a sweet girl too, And since I'm a high school teacher and I work at a community college too, and I have a lot of dual enrollment students, and it's a sweet girl. I'm gonna help this baby do what she needs to do.
Yeah.
So that was for me.
Like she was saying about Rural Studio has been in. I don't know whether any of you all are familiar with the Rural Studio through Auburn University. Like I said before, it's a off-campus class part of the architecture school at Auburn University, and the students actually come into the community. They do projects like the library is a rental project, the city hall in New Bern, the fire department in New Bern. All of these are student designed, student built projects through Rural Studio, and they have projects throughout Hale and some of Perry County.
And they build homes for community members. They build homes for people in the community too. So yeah.
So they are well trusted, very well thought of.
Yeah.
And anyone that comes in and that's affiliated or has any connection with Rural Studio, they kind of get a foot in the door anyway.
Yeah.
So I work real closely with Rural Studio at just about my whole volunteer crew are students. So like I said, Rural Studio, when Emily, who's with Rural Studio, brought Olivia to us and we talked with her, we trusted her initially because of Rural Studio, and then after we got to know her, then, well, everybody misses Olivia in New Bern. Because she became a part of us, so we had no issues with working with her, and we love and miss her.
But she also got to see firsthand, some of the things that we brought up in our meetings, because she lived in Hale County while she was working on her, getting her data together and working on her project. And so she firsthand realized, we live, because Hale County only has one grocery store for the whole county. And then you can't really trust everything that's in there either. So she got to, it's just certain things going back to.
You had to read the sell by dates.
Yeah, you have to think, and that's kind of, not being, it's like you're being punished because you're in a rural area, you only have one grocery store, and that grocery store can control the pricing and all of that, and you have to think about it. And if you want to get something that you need, like I tell people where I live, in New Bern, if I need a tomato, I have to drive 10 miles to go get it if I don't have the plant in my yard. And so you have to think about things like that, because I work in Selma, so I have to, okay, what do I need at home before I leave Selma? So, because once I get home, that's it. Because I'm not driving 10 miles to town. Town is Greensboro, or the opposite direction is a town called Uniontown.
Oh,
And they don't
nothing
have a
there.
grocery store at all. They have a Dollar General and a Family Dollar. That's it. So things like that you have to really think about, because when, we were able to DoorDash here. We can DoorDash, we can get it brought to us, because normally at home,
Well,
want DoorDash, I'm
Walmart will
going out to
deliver
DoorDash.
now.
Yeah, I'm DoorDash. So, you got to think about things like that. And so even just a small, I need a tomato for a hamburger. You got to think that through before you can actually just go in the kitchen and do what you need to do. So those type things we have to consider all the time. But we are used to it, and doing this study, for me, it helped me understand, everybody does not have to do this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I've grown up in this area, and this is just how we operate. We've learned to adapt and be, do what we need to do to get what we need. But my brother lives in Dallas now, and he talks about how he can order something from Amazon, and it comes the same day.
I mean, like,
And
wow.
I order something, and I have Prime, and I order something from Amazon, and UPS only comes to Newbern 3 days a week.
Oh, is it this?
It's just Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah, they still come.
But
yeah.
people have medicine and things like that they have shipped to them, and they have to think about, okay, I'm out of this medicine on Friday. Let me
Yeah.
go ahead and
Pre-order.
do the refill so that I can at least get it by Wednesday. Because if you do it Friday, it won't be there Monday. You still, you have to really think about things like that. And those, for us, is common everyday things, but for someone from the outside coming in, it's a major inconvenience when you're used to getting things instantaneously. So yeah, her study helped bring that to light.
Thank you. So my question is, what were the age ranges of people that were actually involved in the study? And I asked that because obviously we have adults here, but it impacts children and youth in a different way. So were there any youth involved in this study at all?
No, it was all adults. Sorry. And I think, one of the study requirements was to be of the age of majority in Alabama, which is 19. So anyone 19 and older could be in the study. Yeah.
So that age range from 19 to, did you get a good number of them?
I think,
I'm not sure how.
yeah, I'm not sure how our oldest participant was, but I think Mr. Ballard is like,
Mr. Ballard is what?
I think
Yes.
at least 80, right? Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
So
Angel might be old. Well, I don't know.
Yeah. We're gonna say
I know Mr.
early to mid
80s.
80s. But I guess 40s to early to mid 80s.
I asked that question because it would be interesting to see what their pictures were. Because what we see sometimes as adults,
Yeah.
they see something totally different, and we'll miss that and they'll miss ours, but it's all important for the entire community. And now that the school is no longer the hub in the community, I wonder how maybe they're being taught about the issues around water and sanitation, and how it's impacting their day-to-day lives. So that's my question.
This might be a good question for Ms. Barber to answer, because you're spending a lot of time with the youth and building up youth development programs at the library.
Okay. Well, we haven't really discussed that with the youth, because a lot of the meetings dealing with the sewage system were held there at the library, and there was basically no participation from the younger ones, not even the teenagers. it was very much an adult thing, and I guess we didn't really think about the youth, because we were talking about households, you know, heads of households, the ones that would be making the decisions, you know, concerning whether they were in favor of the system and whether they would be, you know, be signing up for it. So, and I guess we know that if you improve the household, then it's gonna improve the quality of life for the children. At the library, we do a lot of programming for children, but my thing has always been our kids are out in, well, I call it out in the boomies, because we're 10 miles from anything. They are bused into Greensboro for school now, and it's after 4 o'clock before they get back home, and some of them they leaving home at 6:30.
The bus picks my baby up he goes outside at 6:40. About 6:50 is when the bus comes by to get him, to take him to town for school. So I think that would be an interesting perspective to get from the youth, because the children in New Bern now don't know sunshine. They never knew sunshine.
No.
They've always known to get on a bus and ride 10 miles to school, and what perspective they would have on having to do that as opposed to the kids in town, you know, just going to school, or even, because my baby wishes he could go to school in Tuscaloosa. Champ, I can't make that work, but
Sounds like we've got.
It'd be a really long bus ride.
yes. Well, my husband works in Tuscaloosa, but he will retire in maybe 3 years, and how am I going to get you to Tuscaloosa to school when I work opposite direction? So, it's like, you know, those of us that live in New Bern, we all drive somewhere for work. You know.
Sounds like we've got good ideas for future directions, which I think was one of the takeaways from this session, one of the aims. Other questions from the group?
I had a question, actually. I was just curious what makes the soil, like what properties of the soil make it so unique, I guess, in this area?
Initially, well, for one thing, the history when it comes to agriculture in the area is cotton. The soil, this dark soil is very fertile for it used to be. Yeah, it's like a clay, and certain plants really grow real well, especially ones that like water, you know, because it's well, you have to walk in. I mean, when you walk in, I mean, like it's and like he was saying, when it gets dry, it's like a rock.
I grew up in Alabama, and sometimes when I would play outside, I could like get some dirt and I would make little bowls out of and just lay them out in the sun to bake. And I think that's
That's
pretty
yes.
yeah.
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you mind saying it in the mic so people online can hear?
Yeah. Thank you.
So, geologists call the soil, it's a vertisol, okay? It's a shrink swell clay. So when it gets dry, like Mayor Braxton says, it shrinks and cracks. So it does cause problems to pipes, anything in the subsurface, because that causes a shifting. So you've gone through probably, 60 days without rain down there recently, right? So what is the soil like now? It probably has big cracks.
You got cracks.
Yeah, big cracks.
Up to 2 inches.
So when it
down there.
rains finally, all that sediment on the ground runs down into the cracks.
And fills them back.
The soil becomes saturated. It re-expands.
Yeah.
And the striations, it's called a vertisol because the striations become vertical, where that sediment all rushed down in. And it's basically, when it's wet, it's basically impermeable. Like, I have a photo of it that I use in my presentations, and you can just feel that it's like if you bought modeling clay and then put water in it, the water would just sit there. It wouldn't go in.
I noticed in New Bern that a lot of the houses have crawl spaces because you can't really put your pipes in the soil. And so at my house in the wintertime, like my porch, my back porch, right now, there's a brick part and then there's a part that we did with wood, and there's a shift there because the ground is so dry that it just fell down. Yeah. But now that it's raining there now, when I get home, and in the wintertime it's even because the ground swells up and it makes everything, because when we were working, I think when they put the porch in, it was wintertime. So now in the summer it just, and we have to think about that because I had to have the foundation people come in and put the, what do you call it? Like it's called AFS at home, but they basically had to come put that barrier down and put the machines under there so that we can control the moisture level and everything, because it was throwing everything off inside of the house where I couldn't close some of my doors and stuff like that because of that, deep swelling and deep constriction of the ground certain times of the year.
You'll see a lot of brick houses where they have like they have cracks
all in
the bricks and stuff, and that's because of that changing. Now my house is on a slab, so I guess the slab just kind of rides it out because
and she's on top of a hill too.
So I don't have that problem. Yeah. But if you have a brick house and you got a crawl space, then because somehow you'll see they got this long streak on the side of them for somebody that's filled in a crack, that kind of stuff. But we're used to it. I mean, they supposedly, the architects and people that build around there are supposed to know how to build to take in consideration that.
And that fall back to the highway we travel. Is they might fix the highway this year, next year, the highway and fell back apart because of the ground shifting, and you just riding down the road and all of a sudden your vehicle, you might lose your vehicle out the road because it's road that shift one-sided.
The whole side of you're on a road and the whole side of it. Yeah. This side lower than this side, so we just drive. we have horrible roads in Hale County.
Thank you for underscoring the importance of environment and infrastructure and pairing those.
Do we have time?
With the time, sorry.
I was going to say, do we have time? We have questions for y'all.
Yeah, with the time that we have left, we want to hear from you all. What stood out to you today? What resonated? And do you see anything here that reminds you of challenges in your own community or your own work?
Thank you. Thank you all. My name's Cara Beale. I'm from Griffith University in Australia, and I work with First Nations communities in Australia. Firstly, thank the three community members for coming out and talking. You all seem very confident, but I know you could have been a little panicky underneath there. It's always a little bit nerve-wracking, so thank you for hearing your voices. Many things sadly still resonate very deeply in Australia for our First Nations communities, our oldest enduring culture in the world. Majority of them live in rural, remote regional areas, and often it's not a choice. It's their home country. It's their country. But yeah, look, a lot of similarities there, and we're starting to work. So one of the things, a reflection, is awesome that photo book and hearing, putting the voices to pictures and is excellent insights. It's an excellent way of hearing voices. Are you doing that with the service providers as well? So the people who are providing that energy, who are providing that solid waste management, providing or not the water, and certainly or not maybe the sanitation. It's a complex problem across disciplines and sectors, and as that gentleman said, across knowledge areas. So it needs to be tackled across disciplines, and all of those people need to come to the party. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but have you considered having just really speaking to all of the people in that puzzle and then come up, not only with just the communication and the listening and having your voice, but having your voice in the design or the co-creation of what might work. That $4 million wastewater treatment plant or that $4 million sewage system, if it's not suitable for that soil or for the people or whether it may be used or not appropriately, etc., then it's also going to fail as well. So it's, again, I'm not telling you what you don't know, but we find in Australia, unless there's co-creation, co-design of this new infrastructure, of the training, the ongoing maintenance, all of those sorts of things, it'll fall down. Technology's this much, everything else is that much. So thanks for listening. But really, really interesting stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, I think one of the main goals of Photo Voice is to have action-oriented solutions, like what can we do about this after our conversation. And so we did, everyone here and Bailey and Mr. Ballard, who couldn't make it today, did invite all of the people who are involved in the sewage system that is being, that would potentially go into town, so they could hear their perspectives, and yeah, so that was something that was really important to all of us, I think, in that. So thank you.
I think we can take one more.
Okay.
I didn't introduce myself before. My name is Rhea Gary Trish. I'm with Habitat for Humanity International. So one of the things I was thinking about, you were talking about the regular report that they do on the water. Asking them to actually come to the meetings and explain to you what this report means. Yeah. Because these reports mean nothing if anybody can't just understand them. And that's a part of collaboration and working together and valuing each other's voice and making sure it's important to the community that they understand what's going on in their own community. So that's one that if you haven't already, I would push on that one.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, one more round of applause, please, for our researchers. And for you all for being so engaged in this session. Please enjoy the rest of the conference. And we're up here for questions and answers.
Hi.
Oh, yeah. They know about us. Well, you know, working with Rural Studio, because the person, Emily McLaughlin, who is with Rural Studio, was kind of the
Can you stay to take all of our pictures?
I guess you could say the spokesperson for all the different schools and utilities, everybody that are stakeholders in the project. She kind of kept them.
No, go ahead.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Oh, thank you.
Nothing more valuable than this. I'm going to give you our director's information.
Okay, well, thank you. You're great. You're great. Oh, University of Colorado. Okay.
Google research to best study on water quality and then also international.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Just some wonderful insights.
Okay.
Really thank you.
You're more than welcome. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Like their state revolving funds are paid for. So, and they help with that. So I'll give you her information.
That's great.
I'm just thinking like, you know, it's the same thing. Fun, Australia, and now
Oh,
It was so amazing. Thank you so much.